Today was supposed to be an easy day, just a simple walkthrough for the Miami Dolphins. Instead, they've made a couple roster moves. We got a ton of injury updates. And oh yeah, the whole Tua and Flores thing, it's been rekindled in a big way as he discussed just how horrible Brian Flores was to him during his tenure as Miami Dolphins head coach. And we're going to talk about it all. Do me the favor, smash the like button, subscribe if you are new. Let's get into this.
Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jaylen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Field on the near side, man open, touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's going over the touchdown again. Touchdown!
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go! What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and shout out to Timothy Easton. He says, I'm ready for this rant. Oh, we going in today. You can bet your last, and I'm dropping names today. We are dropping names today when I go in, ladies and gentlemen. It is going down on that one, all right? Welcome, y'all, into this episode. Man, we got a lot to talk about. I can't believe, we're 2 years into the Mike McDaniel saga, and we got to go over this Brian Flores crap all over again. But, we're going to go over it, and we're going to go over it into detail. In fact, it's going to be the story I start off with after I get a few things out of the way. First of all, I want to thank all of y'all for all the support this past weekend. Another strong showing from all of y'all with the live reaction stream and then the recap show yesterday. I appreciate each and every one of you for coming through. As we start to get into the swing of things, today was just supposed to be a simple walkthrough for the Miami Dolphins. And, the most interesting stuff was going to come from Mike McDaniel's presser. Hell, I didn't even know if I was going to do a show today. And then Dan Lebertard came out here and decided to do his thing. And so we're going to talk about all that. And we're going to talk it in depth because your boy brought receipts. All right? Your boy brought some receipts. All right? So we're gonna get into all of that. Don't you worry. One thing I do want to talk about, if you hadn't heard today, just because we just played them, the Washington Commanders have now officially named Jayden Daniels their starting quarterback for the season. So everyone knows, I've been a huge Jayden Daniels fan since I watched him out-duel Justin Herbert when we were watching football for that 2020 draft class when Daniels was at Arizona State, Herbert obviously at Oregon. And I will never forget that game. I will never forget that performance from Jayden Daniels. It was unbelievable. And I came away more impressed with Jayden Daniels in that game than I did Justin Herbert, if you remember correctly. So your boy's been hyping him big time. Obviously, Drake May as well. But Jayden Daniels, man, how far he's come, to watch his growth. Now starting quarterback for the Washington Commanders in year one. Just don't get the kid killed, please. Just, don't ruin this kid's ceiling. Don't ruin this kid. That's all I'm saying. Please, I'm asking you. I don't ask Washington for nothing because I ain't American, so I don't got to ask Washington for nothing, whether it comes to politics, sports, whatever. So all I'm saying is, please, just the one thing I'm asking for, don't ruin this kid, all right? Please don't ruin this kid. Because I'm telling you, this 2024 quarterback draft class has the same potential, I think, as the 2020 class. Obviously 2020 class, Tua, Herbert, Burrow, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, right? You look at this class, Drake May, Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and then if, Bo Nix is looking real good with Denver right now, and if JJ McCarthy hits 2 and Penix or one or the other, I mean, again, the potential is there for this class to be up there with that 2020 class. It's crazy when you think about it. So, yeah, I saw how they did RG3. Shout out to RG3. They did him dirty over there at ESPN. They did him dirty. All right. Okay. Enough of the small talk. All right. But shout out to the Washington Commanders and Jayden Daniels. I really do hope he plays well over there. All right. But all right. Enough of the small talk here. All right. Enough of the let's stretch it out till we get to the crux of the episode here. I want to get into this right away. All right. So first things first, let's play the clip, and then we're going to go from there, because I got a bunch of clips really regarding this whole Tua and Flores thing. So if you didn't know, Tua, the Dan Le Batard show, they had an interview with Tua. I got a couple clips from it, actually. This is the first one. But, they talked about, in this clip, we're going to hear Tua talk about what his relationship was with Brian Flores, and then we're going to go from there. And I got a lot to say. So let's get into this. All right. Let's start off. This is what Tua had to say. And it's interesting. We've seen players start to talk about how Fangio was, go back to this. Well, we're going to get into the players I have, because this ain't just Tua, but let's get into this.
Can you explain to us the difference in practical terms between having a coach who did believe in you the way that he did, and the difference between that and what was happening with Flores?
Yeah. Well, to put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you you suck at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this. Like, you are accurate, you are the best whatever, you are this, you are that. Like, how would it make you feel listening to one or the other? You see what I'm saying? And then you hear it, regardless of what it is, the good or the bad. And you hear it more and more. You start to actually believe that. I don't care who you are. You could be the president of the United States. You have a terrible person that's telling you things that you don't want to hear, or that you probably shouldn't be hearing. You're going to start to believe that about yourself. And so that's sort of like what ended up happening. And it was, it's basically been, 2 years of training that out of not just me, but, a couple of the guys as well that have been here since my rookie year all the way till now.
We all had the same reaction to that, was to notice how awkward and uncomfortable Chris Cody was in his short shorts on the middle of that couch sitting next to Tua.
Listen.
Shorts.
Listen, we don't gotta get listen to what they say. Listen here. All right. You got people out here that are still defending them. Like TD is out here defending this bullshit. I'm going to call it exactly what it is. Oh, you're just trying to be tough on him. Oh, he's trying to bring out the dog in him. Let me tell you something, all right? A lot of us in this community are fathers. Would any of us if we knew this was going on and would any of us be happy with someone talking to our kids like this? Would any of us be happy with someone talking to our kids like this? And, they'll try and convince you, oh, this is just a Tua thing, right? This is just a Tua thing, right? Do we not remember? Do we not remember that Jalen Phillips had to go see a confidence coach? Do we not remember this? Do we not remember? Oh, because if you don't remember, guess what? Here's the reminder. Right here. Here's a reminder. Jalen Phillips worked with a confidence coach despite solid career start. And you can go into this. You can go find the articles, because he talked about it on the Fish Tank in April 2022. I remember covering this on the show. And I remember in one article, I believe it was either the Miami Herald or the Sun Sentinel, he talked about how when he went to the sideline, no one would congratulate him. No coaches would talk to him. Nothing like this. Right? And we've seen the player Jalen Phillips has turned into. Xavier Howard hated Brian Flores. Austin Jackson hated Brian Flores. I was the first to report. Go look at the Patreon. Go look at my Patreon of your Patreon. Go check the timestamp. I was the first one to report on the Titans game blow up at halftime between Brian Flores and Tua Tagovailoa. When Tua Tagovailoa told him straight up, you can't talk to people this way, stood up and fought back. But you got people out here, because they don't want to admit they were wrong about Brian Flores. They wouldn't let these people, and bring the dog out of him. And back to TD for a sec. Bring the dog out of him, TD? Brother, who are you to talk about dogs when you're out here dodging my creator panel? All right? And don't give no one I'm too big for that. Dudley Durong's the biggest out of us all. He has no problem pulling up. So don't talk about dogs when your bark ain't even as loud as a puppy because you ain't willing to show up and get the smoke for your terrible Tua takes. But I digress. All these people trying to defend this, from the Pete's to the whoever, all trying to defend this stuff. It's absolutely ludicrous. And all these Brian Flores sympathizers have strictly just tuned in and made it all about Tua when I just showed you an example of it not being about Tua. Jalen Phillips, Austin Jackson. There was literal divide in that locker room from the coaches to the players. You literally had Tua and a bunch of players on one side, and then Brian Flores' boy Byron Jones on the other. Where's Byron Jones now? What a coinkydink that Flores got up out of here and Byron Jones could no longer play football. I mean, maybe it was a coincidence. But we all knew he wasn't returning either way. And these are the same people who move the goalposts on Tua, and they want to hold it against him for having McDaniel, for having Tyreek, for having Jalen Waddle. And I say it all the time, well, why aren't you holding it against Joe Burrow for his Super Bowl run when he had a defense that was performing at a top 5 clip, when he had Jamar Chase, when he had T. Higgins, when he had Tyler Boyd, when he had Joe Mixon, when he had the Bengals trying to build him an offensive line, going after La'el Collins and whoever they could to go get him a sturdy offensive line, whether they worked out or not. And I'm a Burrow fan. I've been a Burrow fan. Go check the receipts. Go back to 2019 Tuesday Night Panel. I put EM Dolphin fan onto Joe Burrow. I put that whole freaking panel onto Burrow. So I done been a Joe Burrow fan. So that ain't coming from a malicious point. That's coming from an unbiased stance. But y'all want to come out here and you want to say, it's tough love. Brother, where's the love in that? That's just tough. Unnecessarily tough. And I've said this before until I was blue in the face. The man had the toughest coach there was, his own father. We know how hard his father was on him. While kids were going to the beach to play, his dad would say, yeah, we're going to the beach, but you're going to do drills in the sand. And anyone who's done any kind of footwork or any kind of drills, sports drills in sands, know how hard it is. That's why the Patriots used to do it. Then he had Nick Saban. Nick Saban is a guy who Bama could be blowing out a team, and you would still see him blow up on the sideline if his team didn't execute. They could be up 63-3, and because his team ain't executing in the fourth quarter, even if they're backups, you would see Nick Saban throw a hissy fit. But him and Tua have a fantastic relationship. These are the same people who, they didn't want Mike McDaniel. Some people were out here calling him the next coming of Adam Gase. Hell, some people didn't want him because they didn't want Reason to be right again. Because you remember when we were going for the OC search, when we settled on Godsey and Stoodsville, who was I saying? I want Pep Hamilton or I want Mike McDaniel. Before the year before we even hired him as a head coach. So they didn't want Reason to be right again. Oh, right? and they want McDaniel out of here, and they will tell you Tua's stats don't matter, but then they will push the mediocrity of Flores on top of you. What do I mean by mediocrity? Well, I don't know. Never mind the Titans game and the bad in-game coaching where you saw Mike Vrabel and his staff totally adapt. Tannehill went from pushing the ball past the sticks on the first few drives to, hey, let's not. It's raining. It's sleek. It's wet. Keep everything play action and run the football. Remember that win-get-in game against the Titans in 2021 that we lost? While Duke Johnson was screaming, feed me the football, and our coaching staff said, keep having Tua bomb it, and Tua threw over 40 times in those conditions, which was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And remember, I don't absolve McDaniel because I think his game plan was dumb against Kansas City, but I digress. We're talking about Flores here. Do we all remember how Brian Flores blew a late game? His Super Bowl caliber defense, that's what they would try to tell you, remember? Blew the game late against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Do you not remember we were the first team to lose to Urban Meyer? Am I the only one who remembers that? Brian Flores blew it against Atlanta in 2 weeks. Remember, Tua had that terrible first half. Then he was lights out in the second half, absolutely lit it up, left that field with a 2-point lead, if I remember correctly, and that Super Bowl caliber defense and Brian Flores gave up the middle of the field to Matt Ryan and Kyle Pitts all day, and they ended up kicking a winning field goal. If we don't have the coaching blunders in either one of those games where his Super Bowl caliber defense, he had all the power. If he doesn't blow either one of those games, we don't have to beat the Titans, and we go to the playoffs. And remember, don't let anyone fool you. Go back. Go search it up. June 2021. The name of the video is Brian Flores on the hot seat. I'm up there with Ballgame and another individual, and we are discussing everything. And I start discussing everything I've heard. I was the first one reporting on Brian Flores and Tua's tension. Hell, that year made my Patreon. On the Tua news alone, let alone what I broke with Will Fuller ended up being right, him wanting to retire. What I broke about Xavier Howard faking an injury because he wanted to get paid. This is the kind of stuff that was going on under Brian Flores. Guys didn't want to be here. The guy tried to push out Xavier Howard for Noah Igbenogany, ladies and gentlemen. That pick was originally DeAndre Swift. The card was handed in, and then we traded back. And Noah Igbenogany was a Brian Flores choice. He wanted his guy in, Byron Jones, and he wanted Noah Igbenogany to take over for Xavier Howard and push X out. Because X was too big of an alpha for him. But people still want to defend this crap. When they wouldn't let someone talk to their own kids like that, but they're okay with treating what? Because he's a football player, what is he, subhuman? So he's got to get treated worse than you would allow your own kids to be treated? Make that make sense. I thought some of y'all are Christian with this do unto thou as you'd want done unto, what is this? Don't you do unto others as you'd want done unto yourself? Y'all wouldn't let someone, you would think you would let your children and be happy with your children walking to a work environment daily to be told they don't belong there, they suck, they're not good enough. Y'all think you'd be down with that? Give me a break. And again, that ain't no tough love. Where's the love in all this? And you want to know how much of a liar Brian Flores is? Do we remember what Brian Flores said about his relationship? Oh, let me remind you.
This is an interesting topic because it wasn't strained.
It wasn't strained. Had a good relationship.
It was a player-coach relationship. And I think in a relationship like that, the coach challenges the player. And oftentimes the player challenges the coach. And
Look at Omar's
there's a
face.
great deal of respect between the two of us. So you hear these crazy kind of this narrative that's out there, but this is a young man who works, who developed and got better over 2 years, and I think he's got
look at Omar's face.
A bright future. And I wish him all the best. So the world can think what it wants to think. I think ask Tua. I'm here to say what I got to say, and you can ask him. So.
And we did. Dan Levertard did ask Tua. It sounded a whole hell lot different than that narrative you were trying to spin. Give me a break. Like, that man up there lying through his teeth, and Omar Kelly looking at him like, who is this guy trying to fool right now? Why do you think? Do you guys remember the reports? Do you guys remember the reports of Brian Flores not wanting to share his game plan and not game planning with his coaches? Right? You remember just him and the safety coach. The guy who we all wanted to, I forget his name. The dude who we all wanted to keep, but he ended up leaving. But they would be the only ones who would do the game plans together. You don't remember that? Because Danny Crossman and Boyer turned on his ass. And these are guys he hand-picked, and they turned on him. Why do you think they were carried over and put upon Mike McDaniel? Because they became Garfinkel and Greer guys. It's like I've told the story. Greer looked into training for Deshaun Watson. Didn't like the asking price. From a financial standpoint from Watson's camp and from a trade package from Houston. Yeah, it was Gerald Alexander. Exactly. There you go, Jennifer Forbush. She nailed it. It was Gerald Alexander. So anyways, Greer looks into the Watson trade. Didn't like the asking price from Houston. Didn't like the number he was hearing from Deshaun Watson. What does he do? Turns around, tells Flores, and he told Stephen Ross, hey, it's too expensive. It doesn't make sense, right? It's not happening. So what does Brian Flores do? Goes behind his back, calls up his boy from New England, Nick Caserio, who was with the Houston Texans at the time. He literally worked out a trade for Deshaun Watson. He came to Stephen Ross and said, I've worked out a deal for Deshaun Watson. I talked to Nick. I got it. I've got something worked out. Greer gets wind of it. Greer and him have a huge blow up. And that's when Ross basically said, yeah, this guy, I don't think it's going to work out. And then the decision to move off of Brian Flores was made by October. From what I understand, that year, it was already decided he's gone. By October, they knew. I had Nick Hicks up here. What did Nick Hicks say? This was reported in multiple outlets from my show. Albert Wilson talked about how the energy was so weird, how you used to have to walk down the hallway with your head down and you couldn't really talk to anyone in the hallways. Albert Wilson even talked about the energy and how bad the environment was. And Nick Hicks discussed it on my show. And it ended up getting quoted by multiple outlets. So again, people will try and spin this as it's just a Tua thing, especially now that Tua is finally talking about it. When you ask Jalen Phillips, who had to deal with a confidence coach, you ask Xavier Howard, Flores tried to push out for Noah Benogany. You ask Austin Jackson. You ask Albert Wilson. You ask Tua Tagovailoa. And there's more players, I'm sure of it. Don't you guys remember how we couldn't get offensive coordinators to come here because they didn't want to work for Brian Flores? When they made the switch from Fitz to Tua, which was mandated from Greer and Ross, but Flores was called in. Flores didn't even bring in Chan Gailey. Chan Gailey found out through the media. Who does that with your offensive coordinator? And I'm by no stretch of the imagination a Chan Gailey guy. And the fact that people will still defend this, and like I said, they would not allow their kids to be talked to that way. But I guess, football players must be subhuman because it's okay for football players to be talked to like that. I played in the early 2000s. It was a much tougher sledding back then than it is then. But I didn't have a coach that did anything like this. The most extreme thing I ever happened was I had a positional coach, took the football after I had a bad rep, took the football, I'll never forget this, took the football, walked up to me and smacked me in the face mask with it and told me to get my effing head straight. And I got hot. I had to do a little bit, I had to do a lap and come back. Because I was hot. I remember that. I was hot. But he wasn't out here saying, you suck, you're trash, you don't belong. He wasn't saying that. He was smacking me in the face because he expected better from me. He didn't smack me in the face mask. So, and here's another thing that people are forgetting. And you can tell these people who have never played sports at any high level, you can tell what one thing they don't know. We talk about Jalen Phillips having to see a confidence coach because of what that staff was doing to him. They weren't really helping him out. You talk about Tua and what he was being told basically every day. Listen, there's two positions automatically that pop into my head in sports. A hockey goalie and a quarterback. You could throw cornerback in here too, like a corner. You could throw a corner in here too. Do you know what kind of confidence you have to play with? Do you realize that 90% of that game is up here? You have to think you're the best in the world. You have to have a certain level of confidence to take chances, to make certain, and I'm talking about a quarterback right now, to make certain throws. Same thing with a goalie, man. I mean, go look at a guy like Braden Holtby. The Pittsburgh Penguins ran that guy's confidence into the ground. He had to go see a sports confidence coach, and you would see after he would let in a bad goal, he would take his water bottle, and this is after he started working with a therapist. He'd take his water bottle, squirt the water in the air, and he'd follow the water in the air until it comes down, and that's how he mentally reset and walk. Not everyone is Eli Manning that can just go out there, do whatever they want, and not care about the last play. To be great, you have to be tough on yourself. And a lot of these kids are super tough on themselves. And when you are super tough on yourselves, sometimes it's hard for you to allow the last play to go away. And then it can snowball from there. Part of the job of coaching is coaching the mental aspect of this game to these kids as well. A quarterback is the last person you want to hammer into the head that you suck, you don't belong here. Parcells never did that to players. And Parcells is one of the toughest guys, sharp, edgiest guys there is. You can't do that. Ron brings up Van Noy. Look at Van Noy. Van Noy was pissed how he was handled, and he came over here because he knew Flores from New England, and look at how he ended up getting treated. And he was pissed. You remember how pissed Kyle Van Noy was about how he was treated? And that was a guy this guy brought over from New England. Crazy, man. Oh, James. I look back today. That video that I dropped was in June 2021. That's when I really started talking about detention. And Bo, do you not remember? In June, July, I was also out here saying, what was I saying? this guy could be gone this year, and people are going to turn on him if he doesn't have if we don't have a good season, because the stories are going to start to come out. That's exactly what I said back then. And all the Patreons who've been Patreons for a couple years, they remember I talk about it all the time still to this day. The information would come out in like abundance during the Flores era. You could just tell the different level of respect in the building. McDaniel, it's much harder to get information out of his regime, whereas Flores, it was very easy to get information out because no one liked him and respected him, and the players were talking, coaches were talking. It was easy to get stuff out. It was so easy. It was crazy. And they even brought over people from New England to stop that from happening. Oh, Brian Flores, they used to, you should have seen the laundry list, because remember I used to sit in on the Zoom calls, right? The laundry list of things you weren't able to talk about or ask questions about. This guy was ridiculous. Knight says, took Tua out of learning situations for Fitz and Brisket, took Tua's eyes from him and used his doubts after the hip to break him to look right. Yeah, a lot of people it's all about looking right about Tua. It's not about the actual evaluation. While your boy was out here saying what the film was telling me, if you surround him with better talent and a better coaching staff, what was I saying? I said, you got a franchise quarterback on your hands if you do that. Remember, I wouldn't call him a franchise quarterback. I would say what the film tells me is if you surround him with talent and you surround him with a competent coaching staff, you got a franchise quarterback on your hands probably. That's what I used to say. Fired without cause, just ask Flo. Yeah. Oh, he was fired with cause. People in the building, it went beyond Tua. There were people who don't even play football or coach football in the building that didn't like the guy and his energy. Daryl Wallace, if you're still defending Flores, then shame on you. And there are people that are going to be out here and they'll always defend Flores, which is absolutely ludicrous. Ludicrous. AO1012 says Matt Murray, Holtby was a cap, loved rattling him. Oh man, I hated Holtby. Hated him so much. But I mean, it's unbelievable that people will defend this kind of nonsense and they'll still try to spin it, all because these people can't admit they're wrong. Same people that told you Tua, they all just shared Brian Flores' beliefs. They all told you Tua would never lead the league in passing. They all told you Tua would never be in the MVP conversation. They all told you Tua would never be a franchise quarterback. They all told you Josh Rosen would be a franchise quarterback. They all told you Skylar Thompson would be quarterback one. I mean, look at how many times. What are we at? Six wrongs already? And I'm not even getting really deep into this yet. People have been so wrong about the quarterback position, but they still decide to go on X or go on YouTube or go on every social media platform and still try to talk like they're an authority on the position and like their opinion holds any weight. Miss me with that. Miss me with that. And all they try to do is move the goalposts. It's crazy. But they're fans of the team. No. They're more worried about being right than they are about being a fan of the team. That's what they are. Right? Like I said, they won't hold Joe Burrow to the same standard for what he had around him when he went for that Super Bowl run. Or they'll compare to Patrick Mahomes. Listen, Patrick Mahomes is a 101. None of the 31 other starting quarterbacks in the NFL should be compared to him. Like, plain and simple. You're talking about a guy who's probably going to go down as I already think he's the GOAT, but a guy who's going to go down when it's all said and done as the undisputed GOAT. Stop. Lamar Jackson has how many MVPs and how many times has he beat Mahomes in the playoffs? He had perfect weather conditions last year, and he had home field advantage, and he put up 3 more points in our offense in some of the worst conditions ever for an NFL playoff game while on the road. Just saying. There's only one active quarterback who's beat him in the playoffs, and that's Joe Burrow. The only other guy who's beat him in the playoffs is not active anymore, and that's Tom Brady. The GOAT that Mahomes is going to unseat. That's basically it. You're talking about like the two of the greatest ever to do it. Crazy. Josh Allen has all the talent in the world, all the turnovers in the world too. What's his record against good old Patty in the playoffs? What's Herbert's record in the playoffs? So if Tua would have blown a 20-plus point lead in the playoffs, y'all would have crucified him like Jesus Christ, but yet you will be out here and sing Justin Herbert's praises. Make that make sense. The bias and hypocrisy is so unreal. So unreal. And again, it all comes down to they don't want to admit they were wrong about Tua. They don't want to admit they were wrong about Flores. They don't want to admit they're wrong about anything because they're so insecure and so worried about what public opinion is of them without realizing it's already in the gutter. Like, part of being human is being wrong. I come up here and I sit and I admit when I'm wrong about things. Again, I say this all the time. You just don't hear me do it very often because guess what? I'm not wrong a lot. Pretty damn good track record if you ask me. From the draft to this team in general. Thank you very much. So one final thing here. Check out what Warren Sharp said about the whole Tua and Flores situation, because Warren Sharp of Sharp Analytics, he does good stuff, and he made a lot of key points.
You want to talk Tua under Brian Flores? Let's do it. Tua's rookie season was 2020. Second season was 2021, both of which were under Brian Flores. His rookie season and his second season. You know where the Dolphins offensive line ranked? Dead last. They were the worst in pass block win rate. They were the worst in PFF grades, the worst offensive line in the league. His receiving core those 2 years, you know where they ranked? Dead last in wide receiver separation. They could not get open. His number one receiver was Devontae Parker. We know his problems. His number two was a tight end, Mike Gesicki. Number three was Jaylen Waddle, who he only had for one season. And number four was a running back, Myles Gaskin.
Ugh.
An utter catastrophe of guys, mostly with limited skill and no ability to separate. They also ranked second to last in yards after the catch, obviously because they were not being able to get open. The receivers couldn't contribute it. The offense wasn't designed to give it, which brings me to coaching. His rookie season, the offense was designed by a formerly retired 64-year-old Chan Gailey. He comes out of retirement to design the offense for Ryan Fitzpatrick. It was COVID, and Tua's rehabbing this ridiculous hip injury that ended his college career. Fitzpatrick takes all the snaps during camp to get him ready for the season. Tua then is thrust into the offense midway through the season. If you remember, after the season, Chan Gailey comes out and says that he was totally shocked that Flores decided to throw Tua in there because he didn't have a preseason, he didn't get any reps, and it was a totally new offense for him. Gailey doesn't make many changes to the offense, forces Tua to play Ryan Fitzpatrick's offense, and obviously it's a disaster. Then you go to 2021. He's got co-offensive coordinators this season, so new set of coordinators, George Godsey and Eric Studesville. These guys have no experience calling plays. It was very confusing who was going to do what. Brian Flores doesn't announce who's going to be doing what. His number one receiver misses 7 games. His receivers had the worst separation in the NFL. He's playing behind the worst offensive line in the NFL yet again. And his running backs ranked 30th in rushing efficiency. So he's got nothing on the ground. His receivers aren't helping. His offensive line is terrible. The play calling is not good. And despite all of that, he improves in nearly every single stable quarterback metric across the board. So you want to look at his overall stats and say, oh, Tua wasn't great his first 2 years in the NFL. Maybe you could say that if you want to. It's a bad argument to make considering everything else that went around him and what we have seen these last couple of years when he's been actually playing in a competent offense with decent play calling and a little bit better structure.
Context is everything. What do I always say? We started this channel, me and EM, because context matters and we felt other people were leaving all the context out for you guys. Right? I mean, look at who his starting offensive line was when you go to 2020. Austin Jackson, Eric Flowers, Ted Karras, Solomon Kindley, Robert Hunt at right tackle. Solomon Kindley out of the league. Eric Flowers, where is he? Ted Karras, where's he backing up right now? 2021 starting offensive line. Liam Eichenberg at left tackle. Left tackle. Imagine Eichenberg at left tackle with what we've seen him now. Awful. Austin Jackson at left guard. Michael Dieter at center. Robert Hunt at right guard. And Jesse Davis, who got Tua hurt that year, at right tackle. Want to do you one better? Listen to his weapons. Okay? Listen to his weapons. We'll go running backs and wide receivers and tight ends. 2020. DeAndre Washington, Patrick Laird, Jordan Howard, Myles Gaskin, Chandler Cox, Matt Breida, Salvin Ahmed, Preston Williams, Malcolm Perry, Devontae Parker, Kirk Merritt, Marcus Kemp, Mac Hollins, Jakeem Grant, Isaiah Ford, Antonio Callaway, Lynn Bowden Jr., Durham Smythe, Adam Sheehan, Chris Myrick, and Mike Gesicki in 2020. Those are his weapons. His weapons in 2021? Not much better. Jordan Scarlett, Philip Lindsay, Patrick Laird, Duke Johnson, Myles Gaskin, Malcolm Brown, Salvin Ahmed, Albert Wilson, Preston Williams, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker, Kirk Merritt, Tommy Lee Lewis, Mac Hollins, Jakeem Grant, Will Fuller, Isaiah Ford, Durham Smythe, Adam Shaheen, Hunter Long, Mike Gesicki, Sethan Carter. Remember Hunter Long? We passed up on Quinn Miners, who's a Pro Bowl guard for that jabroni, Hunter Long. You remember him? Because Brian Flores had to have someone from his alma mater. Remember that? I mean, this is why I always talk about. There were people in this fan base who loved Lynn Bowden Jr., wanted him to stick around. There were people in this fan base who loved Malcolm Perry. Look at what Preston Williams looked like in that first year with Tua before he got hurt. Mike Gesicki had career years with him. This is what I talk about. It's on record. Tua's elevated piss poor talent. So should we be shocked that Tyreek is going off with Tua when you look at how he was elevating absolute jabronis before this? But people don't want to have that conversation and talk about it. They just want to blame everything on Tua. PL says, this is why I'll forever despise idiots like TD Barry, Pete, and many over at TFTG, because they help inject that narrative into this community in an effort like Flores to demoralize our quarterback, this team, and this fan base. Hey, who you watch and who you don't like, that's your prerogative, my boy. You know, I don't know what else to say. I appreciate the donation. So, because, yeah, there's definitely, you know, I'm cool with some of the people over there at TFTG, so I'm not going to speak on them. But the other ones you named, yeah, I wouldn't trust them to, you know, clean a toilet, let alone evaluate a quarterback, period. So I get it. But, man, the absolute hate for Tua is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And you know what? They'll still try to convince, just because they don't want to admit they're wrong. That's why you get these people, oh, Tua's stats were hollow last year. They didn't matter. Give me a break. And you know what? It gets even better. When you watch the interview, Tua talked about being polarizing, and he kind of talked about these people that move the goalposts on him. Listen to this.
I've never seen an athlete like you in South Florida in terms of being polarizing when I don't understand why you're polarizing.
Oh, I don't understand why, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. It's funny.
Wait, you enjoy that?
Oh, it's funny because I can't control any of that.
Right.
But the cool thing about it is, like, you're being talked about, whether it's good or bad. That's hilarious.
I said this.
That's hilarious. Like, whether it's good or bad, I mean, I don't care whether you have something good or something bad. That, you know, everyone's entitled to their own opinion about someone, and I mean, I just don't understand too myself why it's so polarizing. Like, okay, if he can't do this, we say he can't do this, then he does it. Okay, wait, what is something else we got to? Okay, yeah, no, he can't do that,
See?
but he sucks at that. Yeah. No, but he actually did that. No, wait.
Something.
No, wait. Dude, but remember 2 years ago, dude, so it's, I
have to
think
apologize.
It's
I'm the master of doing that. So, and I've done it to you probably. So
Look at this man. He's shut up, PL. Yeah, I got it, brother. I was just saving that one. Don't worry. I was saving it. It's all about timing, brother. It's all about timing. I got you. But this man's calling out people moving the goalposts on him. I love it, Tua. Salty Tua is out, baby. Go speak on it, kid. And wait till... And I already told you what the new narrative is going to be. I already told you. He wins a playoff game this year. You know what it's going to be? Well, why didn't you win the AFC Championship? That's what it's going to be. Wins the AFC Championship. Well, why didn't you win the Super Bowl? We still lost in the Super Bowl. Some of these people have even turned on Dan Marino to dig in further on Tua. You'll even see these people bash. Now they'll bash Dan Marino because he never won a Super Bowl. All because they got to keep their narrative going against Tua Tagovailoa, and they got to keep their goalposts moving. Don't think we don't know a lot of you after that Denver Broncos game weren't coming out here and apologizing to everyone and calling Tua Tagovailoa a franchise quarterback only to turn around late in the season and act like you never did that, whether on Twitter or on YouTube, and then just totally flip-flop. Y'all flip-flop more than a pair of sandals. Some of you might have bipolar disorder. I'm just throwing that out there. So, don't think we don't remember that after that Denver Broncos game, a lot of y'all were trying to come over to our side and say, oh yeah, Tua's a franchise quarterback. Now he's the guy. And then you just flipped on him. All you did was flip-flop. When you didn't get the results you liked at the end of the season. Then you reverted back to what you were. Absolute zero consistency. Absolutely zero dignity or integrity. Y'all just move with whichever way the wind blows. You don't make, that's exactly what it's like. We all see it. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I ain't trying to hear none of y'all when this kid leads us to legitimate playoff wins. And when we win a Super Bowl, I ain't trying to hear nothing from none of y'all. And I'm going to be the first one to call y'all out for it. Man, I did my takeaways on Twitter. I had people talking and trying to, my takeaways were long, right? Like I had to make 2 posts. Because I went over the maximum. And they allow you to go way over the maximum now on Twitter, right? But I had to make 2 posts. People were pointing out, going in on the dime that Tua threw, how badly ranked was that Washington pass defense last year. They didn't have starters, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm writing about, way more about other players and other parts of the team, but these people are still just focusing in on Tua because the guy's absolutely rent-free in their head. These Tua haters are what they despise. They're Tuaneers themselves. They talk about Tua more than I do, and apparently I'm a Tuaneer and one of the head Tuaneers out here. What, because I wanted the kid since Alabama, and my evaluation ended up being right? When Flores and Godsey and Stoodsville and Changeli were here, my evaluation ended up being right when I said the film is telling me if you put better talent around him, we already went over how bad the talent was. If you put better talent around him and a more competent coaching staff, you have a franchise quarterback on your hand. Sure enough, where are we right now 2 years into adding more talent around him and a competent coaching staff? Hell, we're sitting here wondering if he's going to finish the MVP race out this year because he's been in it the last 2 years. I was right. Y'all were wrong. He got the richest contract in Miami Dolphins history because, again, my evaluation was right. These people's evaluation was wrong. Just like these Jets fans out here, because they saw Aaron Rodgers make a throw in practice saying Tua can't make that throw. Then he makes that exact same throw in game to River Cracraft. In a game setting, not in a preseason practice setting. Yeah, y'all are a bunch of jabronis, man. Y'all get, and I bring it back in the season. We're bringing it back early. All y'all Tua haters can be, and Flores sympathizers can be the jabroni of the week. All right, let's keep it going. And some of y'all, you want Tua to fail, which means our team would fail, just so you can try and say you were right. You want failure brought upon this franchise just so you could say you were right. Well, you got a guy like me over here. When I make evaluations on players, I say I hope I'm wrong because I want success for this team. And if I am wrong on certain evaluations, that means we're doing good things. That's the difference. All right, keep it rolling. So, Dolphins, they made a few moves today. All right. Move number 1. The Dolphins are signing former running back Anthony McFarland Jr. I mean, we kind of knew this might be coming, where they don't want to overuse Mostert or Achane, right? They wanted Chris Brooks in there to get a bunch of carries. He ended up getting hurt. They had to go to Jaquan Burton. So it makes sense that they would go out and get a guy like Anthony McFarland. Remember, when it comes to Anthony McFarland, he was drafted in the same draft as Tua and everyone in the 2020 draft by the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 4th round, pick 124. He was actually, I think back in February, he signed with the San Antonio Brahmas of the United Football League. So I think he's just a camp body to end out the season, to end this preseason out. I don't think he's making it by any stretch of the imagination. But hey, he has a little bit of a background, right? Like he's done. He's I mean, you're talking about a guy who has 192 yards on 51 carries and 3 touchdowns according to PFF over his career, right? Averaging about 2.65 yards after contact. So, I mean, he has a little bit of experience, obviously, with the 59 snaps in his career, but we will see exactly what he does. 5'8", about $195. I'm not expecting anything more than a camp body. If he's going to be more than a camp body, hallelujah, and praise him. All right. So, we also made another move, did the Miami Dolphins today. The Miami Dolphins signed Dequan Jackson following a workout today. Linebacker signed as a UDFA by the Jacksonville Jags last year, was signed to a future and reserve contract back in January, I think. I want to say he's January. And 6'1", 255. He was signed in January, and then he was released. He was waived on May 16th. So, again, probably just another camp body for now. I don't expect very much from Dequan Jackson. He's here getting a little bit of a paycheck, right? That's what Dequan Jackson, that's what he's getting. Not very much to talk about in regards with either one of those signings. Now, Anthony McFarland does run a 4.44, so I mean, that's decent. That's decent, 110%. But hey, again, if Chris Brooks is back, it's all good. He'll be gone. McFarland will be off. No. Again, I hope Chris Brooks does come back, because I'd try to move Jeff Wilson Jr. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I mean, I had Omar Kelly, quote tweet me today, and I quote tweeted Omar back. Have you even, first of all, did you know that 59-yard run Chris Brooks had on the weekend was longer than any run Jeff Wilson has had in his NFL career? His career long is 41 yards. He did it twice. Now, if you don't want to talk about preseason, Chris Brooks had a 52-yard run against the Denver Broncos last year, which again is longer than any run Jeff Wilson's had in his career. Plus, he's younger, he's cheaper, etc., etc. And again, I like the change of pace that he offers to Raheem Mostert and as well to Achane and Jalen Wright. So, it is what it is. I hope Chris Brooks comes back. I really do. I really do. I hope he comes back. I want to see what he's got going on. Right? I want to see what he's got going on this year. I want him to make the roster. I want him to be a part of this team moving forward. And I would move off of Jeff Wilson and Salvon Ahmed. We've done this song. He's like the running back version of Jakeem Grant. I'm good to move. I'm ready to move on whenever you want on that. Everyone knows how I felt about it. Now he's a bit better than Kalen Ballage, but I'm good. I'm good. All right, let's get into some updates from today from what McDaniel said. All right, because we got some injury updates and I want to discuss them a little bit. So, Dolphins, Cracraft is out. McDaniel addresses injuries, backup quarterback, and they signed the running back that I told you about. So, Dolphins receiver River Cracraft, who had become perhaps Miami's most reliable backup wide receiver, sustained an upper body injury in Saturday night's preseason game against Washington and is expected to miss significant time. Coach Mike McDaniel said Monday that Cracraft, who caught a touchdown pass just before an injury on Saturday, will miss, quote, some time for sure. It doesn't appear to be season ending. Oh, boy. Cracraft was one of the Dolphins' best players in training camp, and his loss with what appears to be a shoulder injury is hurtful. So, what happened? Did he tear something or did he dislocate? If it was dislocated, I don't think, I don't know. Did he break a collarbone or shoulder or something? With Odell Beckham Jr. on the physically unable to perform list for at least another week, Miami is now in a precarious position behind Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, who has been out more than a week with what McDaniel has called a minor injury. Till Beckham returns, Braxton Barrows, Eric Ezekiel, and Malik Washington would appear front runners for the 3rd through 5th jobs. McDaniel said Ezekiel was really able to showcase his talents with 5 catches for 65 yards against Washington. The team could add another veteran receiver to the mix. Braylon Sanders is week to week with an injury. Mike Harley, Willie Snead, Kyrick McGowan, Anthony Schwartz, and Jaquan Burton are the team's other receivers. And in my opinion, none of those are rosterable guys. McDaniel said Beckham won't practice this week, but added, there's been progression every week. I'm not rushing the process. I'm not worrying about it. I know the intent is right on both sides. The intention is not having something holding him back once he gets on the field. If the Dolphins want to keep alive Cracraft's chances of playing the season, he cannot be placed on injured reserve immediately. Per new league rules, a move to IR would need to happen next week, coinciding with the cut down from 90 to 53. Under the new rule, 2 players who are placed on IR during the roster cut down are permitted to play again this season as long as they miss at least 4 games. Overall, a team can bring back 8 players who have been placed on IR over the course of a season as long as they miss 4 games. If there's anyone equipped to handle adversity, it's River Cracraft, McDaniel said. He's working his way to be a very good player in this league, and that confidence will sustain. He did some really good things in this game. McDaniel offered updates on several key players who were injured on Sunday. Quarterback Cam Smith, who has a hamstring injury, is week to week. McDaniel said he did the most with his opportunities. He committed to things. He gave up plays that were learning lessons and made plays, handled some adversity. There was growth there. Chris Brooks is in concussion protocol. Safety Jordan Poyer, who missed 2 weeks with a thumb injury, will practice this week. Linebacker David Long Jr. sustained a hand injury on the first play of the game, is fine. So there you go. That's good news. McDaniel addressed other issues on Monday. His thoughts on the Skylar Thompson-Mike White backup battle. I have history with both. Both have been able to win NFL games against good opponents in the regular season. Both have things about their game I really like. McDaniel and staff decided that we needed to try and separate these guys doing something different. How can we appropriately find some distinction between the two? As a result, the Dolphins gave second-team snaps to one quarterback for several consecutive days, as opposed to alternating day to day. Quote, I put them in a bunch of tough situations, McDaniel said. I will continue to do that this week in the next preseason game. They've both proven in years past to be quality backups. The approach I've taken is to create super difficult situations for both of them. I'm looking for conviction after a bad play happens, how you get into the line of scrimmage, and leading them. So let's talk about River Cracraft, because this sucks. River Cracraft was having a phenomenal training camp. I mean, he was wide receiver 4 with Beckham in the lineup and wide receiver 3 with Beckham out of the lineup. Okay? I'm going to go back to what I said on this show. I believe it was just last week. It was either last week or the week before. You need to go sign Hunter Renfrow. Go sign Hunter Renfrow. 3rd and Renfrow. Tyreek and Waddle, they can move around. I don't care if he's mainly a slot guy. Go get me Hunter Renfrow right now. That's what needs to go down. You need to go get... There is a decent option out there right now in Hunter Renfrow, and I think you need to go get it. All right? That's just where I'm at. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. When I was saying this when it looked like only Cracraft and Malik Washington were emerging as the 4 and 5, and Braxton was out, and Eazy-E wasn't doing anything because he was hurt and out. I was out here saying, go get Hunter Renfrow. And now Eazy-E had the strong had a strong showing, and that's great. But, I mean, you could go get Michael Thomas if you want, but, he's a little slow. I'm not a fan of Corey Davis. I would be going to getting Hunter Renfrow. That's just me. Now, Cam Smith, hamstring injury, week to week. Absolute brutal because the kid stepped up. He had that whiff, and then after that, he was lights out, making sure no one was breaking a tackle, and he had the pass breakup. So that is tough to see for Cam Smith because Ethan Bonner was out, and this was his chance to kind of close the gap a little bit. And Cam Smith, week to week, now he's going to make the roster because they're going to continue the investment. But tough break, and that's a re-aggravated injury. So I think you got to shut him down for a little bit, and you got to make sure that he's okay. Hamstring, that realistic, there is a chance that could bug him all season. That's just, groin area, hamstrings. Those are the type of injuries that can linger throughout a season. Now, Chris Brooks being a concussion protocol leads me to believe he's probably not playing this week. Did you see enough from Chris Brooks in the reps he got? I think you did. And I think you saw enough in the reps last year that it's time to move off Jeff Wilson and Chris Brooks needs to be the number 4. But Chris Brooks will be probably back to practice sometime next week, at latest the week after probably. Jordan Poyer is expected to come back this week. I love it. David Long Jr. is fine. So, some injury updates for you. Man, that sucks for Cracraft, though. Cracraft looked like he was going to have a breakout year. He looked like he was lining up for the best year of his career. And it sucks that, he's going to have to get his legs back under him again. And we probably won't see him until at least probably 4 weeks into the season. So, now, tomorrow, the Miami Dolphins are back at practice. It's going to be a normal practice tomorrow, so we'll have a training camp report as per usual. On on Wednesday, I believe they have their joint practice with the Bucks, so we'll cover that as well. Thursday, they're off. Friday, we are back here for another preseason game and a live reaction. So, man, we got a lot of content coming this way. Depending on Wednesday, we might not do another finish line because I'm going to want to get out that training camp report to all of you guys. So, but we will do a Fin Too Deep on Thursday. Now, if we do a finish line, it'll be earlier than the 7:45, 7:30 start time. So keep that in mind, all right? Because I'm going to want to go live at the latest on 5 on Wednesday, and probably actually earlier. So, because I actually just remembered I have something going on around 5 o'clock on Wednesday. So I'll be going live a little bit earlier than that on Wednesday. I'll probably live around 3:34 on Wednesday. So be on the lookout for that, all right? Appreciate all of you for coming through. Smash that like button. We passed 16K, baby. I want to get to 20K by the end of the season. I appreciate all of you. Smash that like button. Smash on the way out. Appreciate all of you. Over 480 of you in the room watching right now on YouTube. Thank you so much. We crossed over 500 watching today. Love all y'all. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you on the next one. As always, fins up all day, every day, baby.